G'day, Mick Pishola here from the Toorak Times, reporting on Fitzroy Street and the debacle we're having here with Public Transport Victoria, Vic Roads and the Yarra Trams in relation to their intention to change the streetscape here yet again. Visitors to St Kilda aren't happy and the traders are definitely not happy, and today we'll be having a discussion with them to find out their exact issues with the problem. Hi, I'm here with Ben from Bookhouse in Fitzroy Street, one of the last retail traders in the street. Now Ben, how do you think this new changes in Yarra Trams and PTV's streetscaping will affect you?
Well, it's not going to have a positive effect on our business at all. Judging from the last changes they made down on the sort of southern side of Fitzroy Street, that has really clogged the traffic down on that bottom half. And what that's done is put in the mindset of everybody that comes down here, it's just too hard to get a park down in Fitzroy Street. It's too hard, it's too busy, I'm not going to come. And I've heard this over and over from local residents and visitors that it's just too much, takes too much of my time to come, especially in the summer months when there's a lot of people down here. It doesn't flow. And so if they build any more obstructions, making it harder for people to access the street, it's just not going to have a positive effect on the street. And I don't feel that the amount of new tram customers coming down, if that's what they're suggesting is going to happen, is that has certainly not happened yet.
Well, actually the stop here is part of the Route 16 and they're appropriating that in conjunction with the Route 96. In some argument to say that this is somehow going to help the traders in the street.
Well, they haven't approached the traders in the street. I've never seen anyone from Yarra Trams apart from an email saying come and discuss it. And the last time that happened it wasn't a discussion. It was, well, we're doing it. Yeah. What do you think? And I mean, and I live locally as well, and it's also blocked access, easy access to my street where I live.
Did you actually receive the PTV brochures that they say they mailed out in your shop or at your residence?
Definitely not at my residence. It may have got one at the shop, and I was aware. I did get an email, but the email really came from the council. Right. The council were the one that informed me, saying come to the meeting. But I don't remember anything coming from Yarra Trams.
Thanks very much. I'm here with Darren Selby, owner of the Gold Trap, a fashion store, another one of the last retail stores in Fitzroy Street, who has been smashed over the last few years with construction in the area.
I mean, I'm only hearing that they're putting a tram stop right in the middle here, and there's
You're only hearing what you didn't receive Yarra Tram or PTV publications.
I haven't seen anyone from Vic Roads. I have not seen anyone. No representative.
What about their colour brochures?
Nothing at all.
Not at your home.
Not even an invitation from Vic Roads or the council to sit down with all the retailers along here and say, listen, this is an idea we're thinking to try and make your street a better transport, whatever it is that they're trying to do. At the end of the day, we work here, we live here, we know what's best, but yet they seem to think that they know what they're doing. At the end of the day, they've got to sit down with us as well and work a solution to, putting a big tram stop in the middle of nowhere here, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty unprofessional if you ask me.
With Matt Forte, owner of Topolino's Restaurant, one of the longest established businesses in Fitzroy Street, and I'm following up with Matt in relation to his son's presentation to council a couple of weeks ago in regards to the changes PTV, Yarra Trams and Vic Roads are intending to make on Fitzroy Street again. Matt and I had a discussion a few months ago about the changes that had happened not long back and the effect they'd had in the business. Now, the other thing, of course, that may affect you directly is the removal of the tram stop directly out the front of your restaurant. Do you see that as an advantage? Or do you think it's a negative for the street to have that removed?
Well, maybe it could be a positive, I feel, because that way it'll take away a bit of the congestion. They can always use the main parking stop or pick-up stop there outside the Metropole, and alternatively is the Elephant and Millborough. That may create a bit more space, as long as they can again, just sort of allow the traffic to flow a bit better and allow a few extra parking spots where they're required.
Also, you're aware of the plans to actually restrict traffic further by putting a stop in the middle of the Paris end up there between Grey Street and Princess Street.
Well, this is my main concern. If they do this, it'll only congest and make it again. I use the term that I like using, more user unfriendly, push people away from the area, which really becomes a negative for the people that are trading here and trying to make a living.
Well, they're talking about putting it halfway down in the middle of the next part of the road at the moment, and blocking off access perhaps to the primary school and the bowling club for a right-hand turn. Now, other suggestions have been made that the tram should be maybe put here, the stop should be put here, opposite your position. Do you think that'd be a negative towards your business or a positive?
I think it's positive. I think, there's a lot that happens down that end of the street, and, they call this the Paris end, and, a lot does happen up this end, mainly with a few of the restaurants and the new hotels that have just recently been upgraded. I think it would definitely work, and a good positive.
Here with Graham Wilson, owner of Wilson Real Estate and long-term resident of the area as well. How do you think the new changes will affect your business here?
Well, it'll only further restrict the traffic flow through here. I don't see the tram spot loading and unloading right outside our office being much of an issue, but I certainly can see a lot of restriction from outside 133 Fitzroy Street, which is where the cinemas are, I understand.
Yes.
And there's a car park there. You're going to bottleneck it. You won't be able to access across the street, and I can see some serious issues and probably accidents.
Do you think there's an alternative positioning for these stops, or should we just disregard the whole operation, the whole change?
I just think it's a total mishmash. I mean, since they raised the tram lines, you can't do any turning across the street. The traffic has no idea what's going on, the drivers. You can't turn right into Grey Street from Fitzroy Street. And so if someone wants to come along here, it's too hard. They'll keep on driving. So it won't be good for the traders at all. But I can certainly see in terms of the logistics, it just doesn't work.
Good morning. I'm here with Jim Fagan, the owner of Talano in Fitzroy Street, St Kilda, one of the largest and most impressive buildings in the street. DDA compliant tram stops. What type of notification were you given about these changes in the street?
I have been given some notification. I know there's a meeting coming up at the RSL shortly, which I will attend, but I would just say to anyone that's looking at this that any more impediments to the traffic flow in Fitzroy Street is absolutely insanity.
Hi, with Solly Liu here. Solly, what are your opinions on what's happening here with the new Yarra Trams, PTV and Vic Roads changes to the tram stops?
Well, anything that narrows Fitzroy Street is not good for the street. I don't think it's a necessary thing at all. They've put one in here near Leo's, and that's sort of put down the it actually congests the traffic. They've put this on our outside our store. We've now got a tram track built up, which has now caused us to. It actually increases the traffic, and it doesn't allow any traffic to get to where they want. Really, like they used to be able to turn around and come and park somewhere. Now they can't do that.
And this has affected your business?
Yeah, sure. Because the parking now has become much more difficult because people can only park on one side of the road and not the other because they can't turn around. They've put a big tram stop opposite our shop. Now at night it's causing great there's quite a few accidents of people trying to do right-hand turns and getting,
Caught up on the tram
track.
We haven't been made aware of this issue before, actually.
No? Well, it's been an issue ever since they've put in the tram tracks here about 2 years ago.
This is the Park Street tram track that you're talking about? Yeah, okay. Yeah. A couple of locals, Elias and Sophia, that we've run across in the street. And I just wanted to ask you guys about your opinions on the changes being made to Fitzroy Street and Acland Street and how they think they'll impact A, the businesses in the area, and B, you as locals.
Well, the changes to Acland Street are a bit concerning. The issue of making Acland Street a tram depot is I don't think it's a very good idea, given that it's a lot of people go down Acland Street, and it's a very small street, and trams versus people, I reckon people would win out. So I'm a bit concerned about that. And generally, there's got to be a mixture, or there's got to be a balance between convenience for public transport, but also the general populace that use and frequent the amenities of the area. And if you take away one, what's the point of having the other? So if you take away the amenities for the people to enjoy the streetscape, then what's the point of living in St Kilda? It's a question of balance, and I think they've got the balance a bit off at the moment.
I'm here with Kevin Eckendale, the Liberal candidate for Melbourne Ports.
I've actually spoken to quite a lot of the traders along Fitzroy Street and Acland Street.
Yeah.
A lot of people are very concerned about the options that have been put forward to them. What they've been telling me is that there's been very little consultation in the preparation of these particular plans. Especially up here in Fitzroy Street, they've come over with a plan and said this is consultation, this is what we're going to be putting in the area. A lot of the traders are going to be adversely affected by the changes. Now, obviously, there is a need to ensure that all of the stops in Melbourne and Victoria for trams and trains are DDA compliant, so that people with disabilities can access the new trams that are coming along. But I think there are other options that should be reviewed by PTV. Acland Street, the options that they came down to was A and B. And just giving the traders an option between A and B is not consultation. There was also an option to remove palm trees in Acland Street, which I'm very much against. I'd like to see the protection and conservation of these palm trees in Acland Street. Now, whether there should be a mall or flow through traffic on Acland Street, again, should be open to consultation with the traders and residents that access these areas.
We're discussing the Yarra Tram, PTV and Vic Road's plans to place this tram super stop out the front of your club here and restricting access. What are your attitudes towards this, and how do you think it'll affect your club?
Well, I'm aware of the proposals because Yarra, as I've said to you before, Yarra Trams have been conducting some of their seminars here at our club, and I'm against the tram stop being right out the front of the club because it affects the access to the club for our members and also for our visiting members from other clubs, and also for my neighbours at St Kilda Park Primary. So, but I'm perfectly happy with the idea of having it further up the street. Yeah.
What about, how do you think this new 96 plan will affect the community in general? Are you for or against the public transport coming in as strong as they are planning it with the super stops?
I think it's a great idea to improve public transport. I mean, I think that the public transport in Melbourne is some of the best that I've seen in any city that I've ever been in.
As far as consultancy goes, through Yarra Trams or PTV, Vic Roads, has the Fitzroy Traders Association been intimately brought into these discussions with the SGOs?
No, I wouldn't call it intimate, although Council has made a reasonable effort. Yarra Trams talk about public consultation, but these are in fact information sessions to tell you what it is they want to do. And they present fixed options. They've not entered into discussion with any of the stakeholders here from the point of view of, are there other solutions we might derive here? They enter in to say, well, we've got two options. You want option one or you want option two? And as it happens in the case of Upper Fitzroy Street, no one wants either of the options. So, and when you attempt to raise, certainly at the meeting we had with Yarra Trams, when it was raised publicly with them, that there have to be some other engineering solutions to disability compliance outside of a super stop structure. They don't want to have the discussion, even though I can show you tram stops in town that do not require super stops that are disability compliant. So from the Yarra Trams perspective, they're not an organisation that easily slips into consultation. Council has made a bigger effort than they would normally do in these sorts of cases where they've actually had their officers involved. The disappointing aspect, I guess, of Council's performance has been the fact that it's been all too willing to simply accept that Yarra Trams should get what it wants. So they came back to us with a document for public consultation in which it accepted the full closure of Acland Street and an even more difficult version of the super stop for Upper Fitzroy Street. And they didn't even, before they released it, they didn't come back to, well, they did. They came back to us and showed us, and we said, well, you know, neither of these is acceptable, and you know that, so why have you done it like this? And the answer was, oh, well, Yarra Trams will bully us anyway. And I said, well, have you even contacted the minister? Have you actually engaged the government in discussion about this? And they seem either unwilling or unable to engage in good old-fashioned politicking. They're not very adept at that aspect of their job. So we're in something of a quandary with council where we had to front them at a public meeting and point out that they were presenting options that were poorly researched, and in fact the available research, the academic research base, would suggest that neither of the options for Acland or Fitzroy Street are those things that would ring well in consumers' ears, and that we could reasonably expect that if they go into place, we're going to lose even more consumers than we already have.
Yes, indeed.
So there's look, it's hard yards with both Yarra Trams and with council, and council really need to develop a bit more chutzpah when it comes to dealing with the state government. It doesn't seem to understand that that's a valid role for it to have.
Now, you're aware of the changes being made up near Skips?
I'm aware of the proposed changes that they're trying to do up that end of the street. I go up that end of the street now and I say, isn't this beautiful? Look at this wide street. We've got beautiful restaurants, and there are some new restaurants up there that are just brilliant. A beautiful park, the school that I hope my son goes to, my home. And I think if it's going to be half as bad as what has happened down this end, it's devastating for the area. I don't want to reduce the traffic anymore up there. I don't want... I mean, it's bizarre because everyone's saying it makes terrible traffic, but if it keeps going like this, there won't be any traffic to make bad anyway. But the lack of consultation, the lack of economic strategy development from council, the lack of foreplanning as far as a community is disastrous at this stage.
Now, if I was to say to you that Yarra Trams have an intention to force this through, no matter what the community want, they're stating basically that some of this is non-negotiable.
Right.
What would you have to say to them on that basis?
I'd say I think that's pretty tough. I think it's pretty tough on small business. I think it's pretty tough that council can't somehow intervene. I would have thought that somehow some ministerial level, whether it be small business minister, Department of Transport, that all this can go ahead at the risk of all these small businesses. And not just the small businesses also then affect the neighbourhood and the community and what happens around. And I understand that all this probably will have to happen at some stage, but why push this supposed more efficient, better transport at the cost of the business? Surely there has to be a compromise along the way.
I mean, look, Port Phillip has always prided itself on its social agendas, and that's largely been in the area of low cost or low income housing, and it uses that to sort of coat itself in glory to some extent in terms of we're a council that cares about its community. But in fact, they forget that they have a whole range of stakeholders that includes the commercial precincts. And somewhere around 40% of their total income base comes out of the commercial sector of the city of Port Phillip. And I can tell you, as a member of the commercial sector, we see precious little of it in terms of services that come our way. And it's that problem when an entire precinct says we're financially dying here, they struggle to come back with a reasonable response. So it's a council that lacks any kind of sense of responsibility towards its commercial partners. It would rather not recognise it if it could possibly get away with it.
The consultation as far as Yarra Trams, and I must say as far as the council, has been way less than satisfactory. I think I first heard about it from a journalist at Leader newspaper. And I've been to meetings, and it seems to be they seem to be talking at us. They don't seem to be listening, and they promise that they will get mail outs. I live on the street. I've got a restaurant on the street. I still have yet to date received anything at home or in my business, nor has any of my neighbours with the 30 flats in my apartment, nor have any of my fellow business owners received anything, still to date.
It appears this is a consistent thing we've found when talking to the traders down Fitzroy Street, that most of the traders are actually also residents. There's no separation here of their ideas or their wishes or their whims. They're local traders and they're also local residents. Yarra Trams, PTV and Vic Roads have to listen to these people. It's their livelihoods, their suburb, their area. They voted for these people. They pay the wages of these semi-government organisations. They're not going to just steamroll this over us. We as a community are going to get up and do as much as we can to ensure that there's a reasonable and rational outcome for everyone in the area, including public transport. Thank you.